Imagine waking up one ordinary morning after 60 and feeling that quiet, unspoken shift in your body. The kind of shift that does not announce itself with pain or drama, but with a slow, steady fading of something you once took for granted. You reach for your partner in the soft light of early day, and the response that used to come so easily now feels distant, uncertain, almost reluctant. Your heart races not with excitement, but with a private worry you have never spoken aloud. You wonder if this is simply the price of growing older, if the vitality that once defined your closest moments is slipping away forever, and if there is anything left you can do about it. That silent fear sits heavy in the chest of so many men past 60, and it touches more than just the bedroom. It touches confidence, closeness, and the quiet sense of still being fully alive in your own skin. What if the answer is not locked away in a prescription bottle or a complicated medical procedure, but waiting in 3 ordinary fruits you can find in almost any grocery store? Fruits that research suggests may gently support better blood flow and the natural processes that help maintain erectile health as the years advance. The truth is that countless men in their 60s and beyond walk through their days carrying this exact question, never voicing it even to the person who shares their bed, because the subject feels too tender, too tied to identity, too easily misunderstood as failure rather than biology. Yet, the body is always listening, always responding to the choices we make, and some of those choices are simpler and more accessible than most people realize. If this resonates with you or with someone you love, take a second right now to tap that like button and subscribe to Health Journey. It is a small action that helps this community grow so we can keep sharing practical, science-grounded guidance for living stronger and more connected after 60. Your support tells us these conversations matter, and it makes sure more people find the hope that often hides in plain sight. Every person who joins this circle strengthens the possibility that another man, another couple, another quiet household will discover that the later years do not have to mean the end of intimacy or the slow surrender of vitality. Blood flow is the quiet foundation of so much that makes life feel vibrant. When vessels stay flexible and open, oxygen and nutrients move freely. When those same vessels begin to stiffen or narrow, everything downstream feels the effect. For men past 60, the delicate network of vessels that supply the penis is especially sensitive to the same changes that affect the heart and brain. The body relies on a simple gas called nitric oxide to signal those vessels to relax and widen. As we age, production of that gas can decline, oxidative stress rises, and the smooth muscle that once responded quickly becomes less responsive. The result is not failure or shame. It is simply biology doing what biology does when left unsupported. Yet the hopeful truth is that certain everyday foods contain compounds that may help the body produce more nitric oxide, protect vessel walls, and keep blood moving where it needs to go. Think of the endothelium, that thin living layer that lines every blood vessel, as a garden that needs tending. When free radicals and chronic inflammation take hold, the garden withers. When protective nutrients arrive regularly, the garden recovers its ability to release the signals that keep circulation flowing. This is not abstract science. It is the daily reality of vessels that either support or hinder the physical expressions of closeness that many men still deeply desire after 60. The first of these 3 fruits is watermelon. Picture a man named Robert, 63, who used to look forward to summer cookouts not just for the company, but for the thick slices of cold watermelon that somehow made the day feel lighter. After a few years of noticing that intimate moments required more effort and less spontaneity, he began paying closer attention to what he ate. He started keeping a bowl of watermelon in the refrigerator and reaching for a generous serving most afternoons. Within weeks, he noticed something subtle yet encouraging. The morning stiffness that had grown unreliable returned more often. The ease of arousal felt less forced. Watermelon is unusually rich in an amino acid called citrulline. The body converts citrulline into arginine, and arginine is the raw material the body uses to make nitric oxide. that nitric oxide is the same messenger that helps blood vessels open. Studies have shown that citrulline can raise arginine levels more efficiently than taking arginine itself because it avoids some of the breakdown that happens in the gut and liver. While a single slice will not match the high doses used in supplement research, regular consumption still supplies a steady stream of this helpful compound along with lycopene, an antioxidant that supports vessel health and reduces inflammation. The white rind actually contains even more citrulline than the red flesh, so some men blend a bit of the rind into smoothies for an extra boost. Robert did not expect a miracle. He simply decided that if something as pleasant as watermelon might support the pathways that matter, he would give it a consistent place in his days. Over time, the small daily choice compounded into a noticeable difference in how his body responded. He began to notice that the worry which once shadowed every intimate moment began to loosen its grip. The fruit itself became a quiet ritual of self-respect, a reminder that he was still investing in the body that had carried him this far. On hot afternoons, he would sit on the porch with a plate of chilled watermelon and feel, for the first time in years, that he was doing something practical and kind for the future of his closest relationship. Yet watermelon is only the beginning. The second fruit carries a deeper, richer story of protection. Pomegranate has been valued for centuries for its jewel-like seeds and tart juice, but modern research has begun to reveal why it may matter so much for men navigating the later decades. Consider the experience of a man named Daniel, 67, whose doctor had already spoken with him about rising blood pressure and the early signs of vascular stiffness. Daniel had grown careful about salt and exercise, yet intimacy still felt like climbing a hill that kept growing steeper. On a recommendation from a friend, he began drinking a glass of pure pomegranate juice each morning. He chose the kind with no added sugar and made it a quiet ritual. After several weeks, he found that the firmness and reliability he had been missing started to return in small but meaningful increments. Pomegranate is packed with polyphenols, especially L-gitannins and other antioxidants that help protect the lining of blood vessels from oxidative damage. That lining, called the endothelium, is where nitric oxide is produced. When the endothelium stays healthier, more nitric oxide can be released when it is needed. One pilot study followed men with mild to moderate erectile difficulties who drank pomegranate juice daily for several weeks and found that a greater number reported improved function compared with those drinking a placebo. The results did not reach full statistical significance in that small group, yet the trend was clear enough that researchers noted the potential and called for larger trials. Laboratory work has also shown that compounds in pomegranate can relax the smooth muscle of the corpus cavernosum, the spongy tissue that fills with blood during an erection. Daniel still manages his blood pressure with his doctor's guidance, but the addition of pomegranate has become one more supportive piece of the puzzle. He describes the change not as dramatic overnight success, but as a quiet restoration of confidence, the kind that lets him stop bracing for disappointment and start looking forward again. Some mornings he opens the seeds themselves and eats them slowly, noticing the burst of tart sweetness and feeling a small sense of agency return. The fruit does not erase the years, but it seems to soften their impact on the vessels that matter most for connection. The third fruit arrives in clusters of deep color and quiet power. Berries, especially blueberries, strawberries, and blackberries, carry a wealth of anthocyanins and other flavonoids that research has linked to better vascular function and a lower likelihood of erectile difficulties. A large observational study that followed thousands of men over a decade found that those who ate the most flavonoid-rich fruits, particularly berries and citrus, had a meaningfully lower risk of developing erectile dysfunction. The association held even after accounting for other lifestyle factors. Anthocyanins appear to improve the ability of blood vessels to dilate, reduce inflammation, and support the production and availability of nitric oxide. Think of a man named Harold, 61, who had always enjoyed a handful of blueberries with his morning yogurt simply because he liked the taste. After reading about the connection between antioxidant-rich fruits and circulation, he made a deliberate decision to double that handful and add strawberries several times a week. He also began walking after dinner more regularly. Over the following months, he noticed that the occasional struggles that had started to appear grew less frequent. His energy in the evenings felt steadier, and the physical responses that had grown inconsistent became more dependable. Berries do not work in isolation. They fit into a broader pattern of eating that favors plants, healthy fats, and movement. Yet their concentrated dose of protective compounds makes them an easy and enjoyable lever to pull. Frozen berries work just as well as fresh, so they remain available year-round without requiring special trips or high expense. Harold began keeping a bag of mixed frozen berries in the freezer and adding them to smoothies or simply thawing a portion for dessert. The deep blue and red colors became a daily visual reminder that he was choosing protection for his vessels. Over time, the cumulative effect of those small choices, combined with better sleep and a reduction in late-night snacks, created a shift he could feel both physically and emotionally. The worry that once sat like a stone in his chest lightened, replaced by a quieter sense of possibility. These three fruits do not stand alone as magic cures. They work best when they become part of a larger rhythm of care. Blood flow improves when the body is not constantly battling high blood sugar, excess weight, or chronic stress. Simple habits amplify the benefits. Staying hydrated keeps blood volume steady. Moving the body every day, even with a brisk walk, encourages vessels to stay responsive. Sleep that is long enough and deep enough allows the body to repair the endothelium. Reducing processed foods and added sugars lowers the inflammatory load that can stiffen vessels over time. For some men, quitting smoking or cutting back on alcohol removes two of the strongest forces that damage nitric oxide production. None of these changes require perfection. They require consistency and kindness toward the body that has carried you this far. Consider the difference between a man who occasionally eats a piece of fruit and a man who builds a steady pattern. The first may notice little change. The second gives his vessels repeated opportunities to recover and respond. Over months, the difference can become profound, not because any single serving is powerful on its own, but because the body responds to patterns more than to isolated events. Warning signs deserve attention as well. If erectile changes appear suddenly, if they are accompanied by chest pain, shortness of breath, or unusual fatigue, they can be early messengers of broader cardiovascular concerns. The same vessels that serve the heart serve the penis. Seeking a conversation with a trusted doctor is not an admission of failure. It is an act of respect for the life still ahead. Blood work, a careful history, and sometimes simple imaging can reveal whether underlying issues need more focused support. The fruits we have discussed can still play a supportive role alongside medical care, but they are not a substitute for professional evaluation when red flags appear. Many men delay that conversation out of embarrassment or the hope that the problem will simply resolve. Yet early attention often opens more options and can protect long-term health in ways that go far beyond intimacy. The courage to speak honestly with a physician is itself a form of care for the body and for the relationships that matter most. Many men past 60 carry a private sense of loss that goes beyond the physical. Intimacy is one of the ways we feel known, desired, and still fully ourselves. When that pathway grows uncertain, the emotional weight can be heavier than the physical one. The stories of Robert, Daniel, and Harold are not unique. They reflect a quiet determination shared by countless men who refuse to accept that the later years must mean the end of closeness. Choosing foods that support blood flow is one concrete way of saying the body still matters, that pleasure and connection still matter, and that small daily actions can accumulate into real change. There is a particular kind of loneliness that settles in when a man begins to withdraw from physical closeness because he fears disappointment. That loneliness can affect mood, sleep, and even the willingness to stay active. Addressing the physical foundation with supportive foods and habits can begin to reverse that cycle, restoring not only function, but also the emotional openness that makes relationships thrive. As you consider adding watermelon, pomegranate, and berries into your own days, start gently. A few slices of watermelon after lunch, a small glass of pure pomegranate juice in the morning, a handful of berries with breakfast, or as an evening snack. Notice how your body responds over weeks rather than days. Pair those choices with movement you enjoy and sleep you protect. Speak with your doctor about any medications you take, especially if you use blood pressure or heart medicines, so that everything works together safely. The goal is not perfection or overnight transformation. The goal is steady support for the systems that keep you feeling capable and connected. Some men find it helpful to keep a simple note of how they feel each week, not as a rigid scorecard, but as a way of noticing gradual shifts that might otherwise go unrecognized. Others involve their partners in the process, turning the addition of these fruits into a shared practice of care rather than a solitary effort. Either approach can deepen the sense that change is possible and that the body is still responsive to kindness. There is also a quieter truth worth holding. The later years can bring a different kind of intimacy, one less driven by urgency and more shaped by presence, patience, and mutual understanding. Supporting blood flow and vascular health does not erase the natural changes of aging, yet it can preserve enough ease and reliability to keep physical closeness available as one expression of love. That availability itself reduces the pressure that so often makes performance more difficult. When a man no longer approaches every intimate moment with dread of failure, the nervous system relaxes and the body often responds more freely. The fruits and habits discussed here can contribute to that softer internal climate, creating space for connection rather than anxiety. If any part of this conversation has touched something personal for you, I invite you to share your own experience in the comments. Have you noticed changes after adding certain fruits or other simple habits? What has helped you feel more confident and present in your later years? Your words may be exactly what another man or his partner needs to hear today. And if this information feels valuable, consider sharing the video with a friend or family member who might benefit. Sometimes the most meaningful gift we can give is the quiet knowledge that support is available and that the years after 60 can still hold vitality, closeness, and hope. Many men will never speak these concerns aloud, yet they will listen carefully to a story that mirrors their own private experience. By sharing what you have learned or simply by leaving a thoughtful comment, you become part of a larger circle of quiet encouragement that reaches further than any single conversation. The body you inhabit now has already carried you through decades of life. It has learned, adapted, and endured. Offering it the simple gifts of watermelon, pomegranate, and berries is one way of continuing that partnership with care and respect. Blood flow is not only about one aspect of health. It is about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your body can still respond, still connect, and still bring you moments of joy. May these choices become part of a larger journey toward feeling more at home in your own skin, more present with the people you love, and more hopeful about the years still unfolding. The path forward does not require dramatic overhauls or perfect discipline. It asks only for steady, compassionate attention to the vessels that keep life moving and to the relationships that give that life its deepest meaning. In the end, the decision to support better blood flow after 60 is a decision to remain open to the full range of human closeness, to protect the capacity for pleasure and presence, and to honor the body that has already given so much and still has more to offer.